Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is going to be titled, People Don't Listen to Understand, They Listen to Respond. Engaging in meaningful conversations requires more than just speaking. It demands active listening and a genuine effort to understand different perspectives. However, if you start paying closer attention to how people communicate, you'll notice a common pattern. Most people don't listen to understand. Instead, they listen just so they can respond. Their focus isn't on comprehending the other person's point, but on waiting for their turn to speak. This habit leads to ineffective and frustrating conversations where neither party truly engages with the other's perspective. Think about a simple discussion, like a conversation about food prices. Imagine you're talking to someone who insists that eggs at a specific supermarket cost a certain amount, but you disagree. Instead of hearing them out, you're already preparing your counterargument, waiting for them to finish so you can explain why you believe they're wrong. You might nod along or remain silent, but your mind isn't absorbing what they're saying. It's simply formulating your response. When this happens, the conversation becomes a pointless exchange where neither side truly listens and no real understanding is reached. This issue is particularly noticeable in debates. Many people enter debates with a rigid mindset, convinced that they are right and the other person is wrong. They don't consider the debate as an opportunity to exchange ideas, but rather as a battleground where they must defend their stance at all costs. This approach defeats the entire purpose of debating. A debate should be about presenting perspectives, challenging ideas, and ideally walking away with new insights, even if your opinion doesn't change. One YouTube channel I enjoy watching, the Hippy Dippy Roundtable, highlights this issue well. The host brings together multiple people to discuss political and social topics like abortion, cultural issues, and current events. During these debates, you can see how often participants talk past each other rather than engaging with what's actually being said. Many debaters don't respond to the points made by others. Instead, they wait for their turn to reiterate their stance. This makes the discussion less productive and more about performance than actual dialogue. That's why it's refreshing when you encounter someone in a debate who truly listens. Every now and then, you'll see a person who takes a moment to process what the other side is saying, considers their point of view, and then responds thoughtfully. It's a rare but valuable quality that makes for a much richer discussion. When someone genuinely engages in a debate with an open mind, it stands out, just like when you meet a kind and sincere person in everyday life. Their presence is memorable because it's uncommon. The problem extends beyond formal debates. It happens in casual conversations, too. Just the other day, I was on a call with someone on an app, and I could tell they weren't truly listening. They were simply waiting for me to stop talking so they could take their turn. Even though we were having a conversation, there was no real exchange of ideas, just two people taking turns talking at each other. Moments like these make you realize how rare it is to have a conversation where both parties are genuinely engaged. Why does this happen? One reason is that many people approach conversations with a competitive mindset. They see discussions as a way to prove they're right rather than an opportunity to learn. If you go into a conversation believing that nothing the other person says could possibly be valid, you've already shut yourself off from meaningful dialogue. Even if the topic is something you feel strongly about, refusing to consider another perspective weakens the conversation rather than strengthening it. A truly productive conversation, or debate, happens when people are open to the possibility of learning something new. This doesn't mean you have to change your mind, but at the very least, you should be willing to understand where the other person is coming from. Some of the best debates aren't the ones where one side wins, but the ones where both sides walk away with a broader understanding of the issue. If you reflect on past conversations, you'll likely recognize moments when you were guilty of this yourself. We all have times when we're more focused on what we're going to say next, rather than absorbing what's being said to us. But becoming aware of this habit is the first step in breaking it. Once you realize how often conversations are dominated by people waiting for their turn rather than truly engaging, you start to see the value of active listening. Active listening means more than just being quiet while someone talks. It involves processing their words, considering their perspective, and responding in a way that shows you understand, even if you ultimately disagree. It's the difference between a conversation that goes nowhere and one that fosters real connection and understanding. If more people approached conversations with the goal of understanding rather than winning, discussions would be far more productive. Instead of dismissing opposing viewpoints outright, we could ask questions, clarify ideas, and find common ground. Even in cases where agreement is impossible, the simple act of acknowledging another person's perspective can lead to a more respectful and engaging conversation. Unfortunately, in today's world, especially online, people are more focused on proving themselves right than engaging in meaningful dialogue. Social media, in particular, has amplified this issue, turning debates into public performances where people argue for the sake of gaining approval rather than seeking understanding. This has led to a culture where listening is undervalued and conversations become endless cycles of talking past one another. Despite this, there's still hope for better discussions. If you make a conscious effort to truly listen, you'll start to notice a difference in your conversations. People appreciate being heard, and when you engage with someone's ideas sincerely, they're more likely to extend the same courtesy to you. This creates an environment where real discussions can take place, rather than shallow exchanges of predetermined opinions. At the end of the day, conversations, whether casual or formal, should be about more than just taking turns speaking. They should be opportunities to connect, learn, and grow. If more people approached discussions with an open mind and a genuine willingness to listen, we'd all benefit from richer, more meaningful interactions. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of the Moors October Rants. Signing out. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye for now.